All right. So are you ready to dive into the world of Jordan Peterson?
Always ready for a good deep dive.
Okay, good. Because today we're looking at Peterson's 12 rules for life.
Mmm. Well, real,
Yeah,
sir.
12 sounds like a lot to cover, right?
It is a pretty dense book, lots of ideas packed in there.
But that's why we're here. We're going to break it down, find the nuggets of wisdom.
Pull out the stuff that's most relevant,
Yeah.
make it practical for everyday life.
Exactly. Think of this deep dive like a cheat sheet. You get the wisdom without reading the whole thing.
I like that. A cheat sheet for life. Who wouldn't want that?
Right. Okay, so rule number 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Ah, yes. Classic Peterson. Right out the gate. Hits you with the posture advice.
Right. It sounds like something your mom would tell you.
Yeah.
But Peterson, he goes deeper.
Much deeper.
He even brings lobsters into it.
Lobsters.
Lobsters.
I'm not kidding. You got to give him credit for originality.
No kidding. So he compares lobsters, right,
Mm.
to humans. In terms of like social hierarchies and stuff.
It's interesting. And what's the connection with posture?
So apparently with lobsters, their posture is linked to their serotonin levels.
Like the chemical in your brain that affects mood?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, the lobsters who stand up straight, they have higher serotonin.
So basically, good posture equals good mood, even for lobsters.
Yeah, that's what he's suggesting. It's like the more dominant lobsters, the ones who take up space.
They literally stand taller.
Yeah. And that makes them more confident, less anxious. Makes you wonder if it works the same way with us humans, right?
It does make you think. I mean, think about when you feel confident. You naturally stand taller, shoulders back.
Right. It's like your body language reflects how you're feeling inside.
But what Peterson's saying is that it can also work the other way around.
Or you mean like if you consciously change your posture?
It can actually impact your mood, boost your confidence.
Huh. Fake it till you make it, but for your brain chemistry.
Kinda. All right, so let's move on to rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
Now this one, I gotta admit, it throws me off a little. Don't we already do enough for ourselves?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But Peterson's argument is that we often neglect our own needs.
While we're busy taking care of everyone else.
Yeah. It's like we put everyone else first and ourselves last.
Ooh, that hits home. Like, I'll bend over backward to help a friend, but then I feel bad about taking time for myself.
Right, and it's not about becoming selfish. It's about recognizing that you deserve the same care and attention you give others.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Treat ourselves better, Amy.
Well, think about it. What advice would you give a friend who's feeling stressed or burnt out?
I'd tell them to take a break. Relax. Do something for themselves for once.
Exactly. You tell them to prioritize their well-being, and that's what Peterson is saying we should do for ourselves.
Okay, so set boundaries, prioritize self-care. It's not selfish, it's essential. I like that.
It is, because when we take care of ourselves, we can show up better for everyone else in our lives too.
True. Okay, on to rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you.
The power of your social circle.
Yeah, this one seems pretty straightforward, but I bet
Yeah.
there's more to it.
Oh, definitely. It's not just about being surrounded by nice people.
It's about the people who are truly invested in your growth, the ones who want to see you succeed.
Exactly. People who challenge you, inspire you, and support you in becoming the best version of yourself.
It makes you think about the people you spend the most time with, doesn't it? Are they lifting you up or dragging you down?
Because, let me tell you, the people you surround yourself with, they have a huge impact on your life.
Oh, I know. I had a friend a few years ago. It was a constant drain. Just so much negativity, I had to let it go.
That's tough, but sometimes it's necessary. There's this thing called social contagion.
Contagion. Like, you catch it.
In a way, emotions and behaviors can spread through social networks. Like a virus.
But you're saying if you hang around negative people.
It can rub off on you, and vice versa. Positive people can uplift you, so choose wisely.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be more mindful about who I spend my time with. Okay, let's talk about rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Ah, the comparison game. A recipe for unhappiness.
It's so hard to avoid, though, right?
Yeah.
Especially with social media and everything.
It's everywhere. But Peterson's right. Comparing yourself to others, it's a losing battle.
Because there's always going to be someone who's more successful, more talented, you name it.
It's a never-ending cycle. And it just makes you feel inadequate. So instead of looking outward, Peterson says, look inward.
Focus on your own progress, your own journey.
Exactly. Ask yourself, how have I grown since yesterday, since last year?
Instead of why am I not as whatever is that person?
Right, because everyone is on their own path, their own timeline.
And comparing yourself to others just steals your joy. Okay, so we've got posture, self-care, good friends, and no comparing. What's next?
How about raising kids?
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so rule 5 is do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Now that's one that gets people talking. It sounds harsh at first, but there's a lot to unpack there.
It's not about being a dictator parent, right?
No, it's not about punishment. It's about setting boundaries.
And teaching kids responsibility.
Exactly. Guiding them towards becoming good people. Think about it. If you let a kid run wild and do whatever they want,
They might end up being a real pain.
and not just for you, but for everyone around them, so you got to set limits.
It's about setting them up for success in the long run.
Right. And it has to be done with love, of course,
Uh,
patience and consistency. It's not about controlling them. It's about teaching them self-control.
Makes sense. So we've covered taking care of ourselves, choosing good friends, and raising kids right. What else is there?
Well, how about taking responsibility for our own lives, our own little corner of the world?
Okay, so rule 6 is set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. This one might take some work
It's a good one, though. Makes you think.
because we all have things we could improve about ourselves before we go trying to fix the whole world.
Exactly. It's like, if you can't manage your own life, how can you expect to change the world?
My desk is a mess. Does that mean I can't have an opinion?
Huh. Not necessarily. But Peterson's point is that we often project our own inner chaos onto the world around us.
So instead of blaming the world for our problems,
We should look inward, address our own stuff first.
okay, so set your own house in order, then tackle the big issues. Got it. What's next?
Rule 7, and this one is a big one. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Ooh, that's a good one. So easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget about what really matters.
Exactly. It's about finding what truly resonates with you, your values, your purpose.
Well, how do you do that? Like, how do you know what's truly meaningful?
Well, think back to a time when you felt truly alive, truly engaged in what you were doing.
That's a good question. I remember working on my first big project. I lost all track of time. I was so into it.
And it wasn't about the outcome, it was the process that was so fulfilling.
Yeah, the challenge, the creativity.
That's what it's about, finding those things that light you up, even if they don't offer immediate rewards.
It's like choosing long-term fulfillment over instant gratification.
Exactly. It's about investing in the things that truly matter, even if they require more effort.
Love that. Okay, so we've got posture, self-care, good friends, no comparing, raising good kids, setting your own house in order, and finding what's meaningful. What else is there?
Let's talk about honesty.
Okay, rule 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. This one seems pretty self-explanatory.
It does, right, but it goes deeper than just not lying. It's about building integrity.
With yourself and with others.
Yeah, being honest about your thoughts and feelings, even when it's uncomfortable.
So being honest with ourselves even when it's hard.
Because those little lies we tell ourselves, they can really do damage in the long run.
I've been there. Tried to avoid the hard truths. It never ends well.
Because facing those truths, even when they're painful, it can be so liberating.
Okay, so I get honesty with yourself. But what about honesty with others? How do you tell the truth without being hurtful?
It's about being kind, of course, but also direct,
So choose your words carefully.
right? Be mindful of the impact your words will have, but also don't sugarcoat things too much. Sometimes the truth needs to be said.
And that's the foundation of any strong relationship.
It is. So, moving on to rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
I like this one. It reminds me to be humble. Because none of us have all the answers.
And you can learn something from everyone.
Even if you don't agree with them. It's about approaching conversations with curiosity, not just trying to prove your point.
Right, and really listening to what the other person has to say, asking questions, seeking to understand.
Because you never know, they might just teach you something new.
Exactly. So let's talk about communication. That's where Rule 10 comes in. Be precise in your speech.
This seems pretty straightforward.
Right. It's about making sure your words accurately convey what you mean.
I definitely had my fair share of miscommunications.
Oh, haven't we all? And it often boils down to not being precise enough with our language.
So it's about choosing your words carefully.
Being clear and concise. Avoiding ambiguity. And that can prevent a lot of misunderstandings and drama.
Okay, I'm going to work on that. Be more precise in how I communicate.
Good. It's a valuable skill. Now get ready for this one. Rule 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
Now, I'm not a skateboarder myself, but
That's metaphor in
yeah, I figured.
there. He's talking about risk, you see. The importance of letting kids explore and learn through experience.
Even if that means they might fall down and get hurt.
Exactly. It's about not being overly protective, letting kids push their boundaries and develop resilience.
Because that's how they learn to bounce back from setbacks.
And they learn valuable skills they can't get from a textbook.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. But this applies to adults too, right? Not just kids.
Absolutely. We all need to embrace challenges and step outside our comfort zones.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Exactly. That's how we grow. Now for the last rule, Rule 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
This one always makes me chuckle. It sounds so random.
It does, doesn't it? But there's a deeper meaning behind it.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the wisdom in petting cats?
It's about mindfulness.
Mindfulness, like being present in the moment.
Yeah, appreciating the simple things in life. You know, like stopping to smell the roses. Or pet a cat.
It's about finding those little moments of joy in everyday life.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a cat, of course. It can be anything that brings you a sense of peace and connection. So what have we learned from Jordan Peterson today? Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, he really makes you think.
He does.
Okay, so we've unpacked the 12 rules, but this is actually just the beginning.
There's a lot more to explore.
Because Peterson wrote a whole other book.
Beyond Order, 12 More Rules.
Maybe we'll have to do another deep dive into that one sometime.
We could, but for now, I think we've given our listeners a good starting point. All right, welcome back to our deep dive.
Picking up right where we left off.
Rule number 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Meaningful, not expedient. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's so easy to get sidetracked, you know?
Oh, yeah. Chasing quick wins and easy solutions.
But those things don't really...
They don't satisfy in the long run.
Exactly. It's like fast food versus a home-cooked meal.
I like that analogy.
Fast food is tasty, right? But it's not.
Not nourishing.
So how do we figure out what's truly meaningful, not just expedient?
Well, it takes some soul searching, some trial and error.
I mean, how do you know for sure?
Think about it this way. When have you felt most alive, most engaged in what you were doing?
I remember when I was working on my first big project. It was this writing thing, and
What was it about that project that hooked you?
it was challenging,
Yeah.
for sure. But I was so absorbed in it.
You were in flow.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, exhilarating. It wasn't about the outcome, you know?
Exactly. It was the process itself.
The challenge, the creativity,
That's what Peterson is talking about. Finding those things that light you up.
even if they take more work, more time.
It's a long game. And what's meaningful for one person might not be meaningful for another.
Right. It's personal.
It's about your values, your own sense of purpose.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
Honesty.
Pretty straightforward. Don't lie.
You'd think so. But there's more to it. It's about cultivating a deeper kind of honesty.
What do you mean?
It's not just about what you say to others. It's about being honest with yourself, too.
Oh, like acknowledging your flaws.
Yeah. But also your motivations, your true feelings.
Even the stuff you don't want to admit.
Sometimes it's easier to lie to ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Tell yourself a story that's more comfortable.
But those lies, they catch up with you.
They always do. Create more problems in the long run. So honesty, even when it's hard.
It's the best policy. It's freeing.
It allows you to live with integrity.
And build trust with other people. So how do we get better at being honest? Both with ourselves and others.
Yeah. How do you tell the truth without being, I don't know,
Hurtful.
Yeah.
Well, it takes practice. It's about finding that balance between kindness.
and honesty?
Right. Choose your words carefully. Be mindful of the other person's feelings.
Don't just blurt out the truth in a way that's going to cause damage.
Right. It's not about being brutal. But at the same time,
Sometimes you got to be direct.
exactly. Sometimes honesty requires having those difficult conversations, setting boundaries. But in the end, it's worth it.
Because strong relationships are built on trust. And trust requires honesty.
It does. And let's move on to Rule 9. This one is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
I like that. It's a good reminder that we don't know everything.
There's always something to learn from everyone.
It makes you approach conversations differently, doesn't it?
It does. Instead of trying to be right all the time,
You actually listen to what the other person has to say.
you ask questions. You're genuinely curious.
Because they might have a different perspective, a different piece of the puzzle.
And you can learn from that. even if you don't agree with everything they say.
Okay, Rule 10. Be precise in your speech. This seems pretty basic
It is, but it's also really important.
because words matter.
They do. And this rule is about making sure your words are conveying what you actually mean.
Oh, I know. Miscommunication can cause so many problems.
It can. It can lead to arguments, hurt feelings, all sorts of things.
So how do we get better at being precise with our words?
Well, it starts with awareness, paying attention to the words you're using,
Making sure you're being clear.
and concise, avoiding jargon or vague language.
Being intentional with your communication. I like it. Okay, what's next?
Rule 11, do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
All right, now this one sounds a bit out there.
It's a metaphor.
Okay. I had a feeling.
Peterson is talking about the importance of letting kids.
Skateboard.
Well, yes, but it's about more than just skateboarding.
It's about letting them take risks.
Yeah, explore, experiment, learn through experience.
Even if it means they might get hurt.
Right. It's about not being overly protective.
Because sometimes you have to fall down to learn how to get back up.
Exactly. And that goes for adults, too, not just kids. We all need to push ourselves outside our comfort zones sometimes.
Take on challenges. Embrace the possibility of failure.
Because failure is just a part of the learning process.
All right, on to the final rule. This one's always intrigued me.
Rule 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
I love this one. It's so unexpected.
It's about finding joy in the little things.
Like petting a random cat.
Well, yes, but it's more than that. It's about mindfulness.
Oh, I see.
Taking a moment to appreciate the present moment. You know, like stopping to smell the roses.
Or pet a cat.
Exactly. It's about being present, connecting with something outside of yourself.
It doesn't have to be a cat. It could be anything that brings you joy. A beautiful sunset, a good cup of coffee.
Anything that makes you pause and appreciate the beauty around you.
All right, welcome back to our final part.
Deep dive into the 12 rules.
Yep, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
Lobsters, skateboarding, cat petting.
It's been quite a journey. So what stood out to you the most?
Out of all the rules, that's a tough one.
I know, right? There's so much packed in there.
I think for me, it's Rule 7.
Pursue what is meaningful.
That's the one. It's such a good reminder, to focus on what truly matters, not just the easy path.
Yeah, not just what's convenient in the moment.
Exactly. It's about finding that deeper sense of purpose.
So we've talked about all 12 rules from the book,
But there's more.
Right. Peterson actually wrote another book,
Beyond Order.
and he added like 13 more rules in that one.
He did.
So should we tackle those too? What do you think?
I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah, we have.
And the thing is, even though he presents them as separate rules, they're all connected. Ooh, that's a good point. They all kind of build on each other.
They do. They create this framework for living a better life.
So it's not about following each rule perfectly or
No,
anything.
not at all.
It's more about understanding the bigger picture
Exactly.
and figuring out how to apply those principles to your own life.
Your own situation.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like having a toolbox.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You wouldn't use a hammer for every job. Right. You choose the tool that's right for the task at hand.
So maybe stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah.
That's the tool you need when you need a boost of confidence.
Exactly. And maybe treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. That's the tool you pull out when you're feeling burnt out.
And as you use these tools more and more,
You get better at using them.
right, you become more skilled at navigating life's challenges.
You start to see the patterns. You figure out what works for you.
It's like you're building your own personal operating system for life.
I like that. A life operating system.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope people take away from all this?
I hope it inspires them to take responsibility for their own lives.
Yeah, become the best version of themselves.
But it's not about being perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
It's about progress, not perfection. Making small changes every day.
And remembering that we all have the potential to do great things.
We do. But it takes effort. It takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone. And to keep learning, keep growing.
It's a journey. Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Jordan Peterson's work.
My pleasure. Always a good conversation.
And if you want to learn more, we highly recommend checking out Peterson's books.
There's so much wisdom packed in there.
Definitely worth a read. All right, that's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep diving deep.